Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob. How is everybody doing on this rainy day in New York? Correa Watch Day 13 in this new year, 2023. Thank you for tuning in right here on Talking Mets at Rob on this early 11 o'clock morning on a Tuesday. Hopefully everybody is doing well. And before we get started with anything, if you're a sports fan, a football fan, or any type of sport, if you happen to watch Monday Night Football yesterday and Damar Hamlin collapsing onto the field yesterday, I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much of an asshole you might be. I don't care, how much money you had on the line on a game or anything like that. Seeing that and seeing him perform CPR to that kid, 24 years old, is just shocking, and it took everybody by surprise. It was a bad feeling last night. It was weird. You saw players from both sides crying. It was bad, and apparently he had cardiac arrest. They did revive the heartbeat, but he was still unconscious, and the latest news was that he had a breathing tube put down his throat to assist in his breathing, and he's in critical condition. So for anybody, before we talk about anything with Correa or baseball or sports in general, just remember, and we tend to do this a lot, we dehumanize these players a hell of a lot because we think they're robots, they make a ton of money, and sometimes we think they're invincible. And unfortunately for Hamlin, his life is hanging on by a thread by basically doing a routine tackle. And unfortunately, there was something, I forgot what it was called, but I was watching something last night that a doctor put a video out stating that there's this rare occurrence where when your heartbeat is beaten and there's like a QRST wave and like cycle that goes through your heartbeat. I don't know why I remember that from biology, but at the T part of the cycle, which is the last part of the heartbeat cycle, which is like millimeter seconds, like it's very, very like milliseconds, like it's that quick. When it hits that T rhythm to cycle again and do the heartbeat over again, it's that moment where if it's traumatic impact or some type of impact to the heart or the area where the heart is, it can disrupt the heartbeat. And that seems like to be what happened to him. And that's why he went to cardiac arrest. That's why when you see him get up, it was like the one pump to the heart that helped him get up, and then the heart just stopped. And shit, I mean, I never saw that personally in my life. I did see somebody have a seizure on the baseball field. I in college. I remember that very well. Thank you. Muted. That's what it is. The commotio cordis. Yeah, that's basically what it is. So, and that was the name I was trying to remember. Thank you, Muted. So that's the situation. Again, it's not a diagnosis, but there was a doctor that went on. I mean, there was about 8 million views from that doctor talking about this. So, and there was another doctor that also brought up that as well. So if that's the case, it doesn't matter what happened to the poor kid. The fact of the matter is he's got a mother, he's got a family that's sitting by his bedside, not knowing if their son or their brother or their family member is going to survive something that, I mean, that shouldn't happen, but unfortunately does. I mean, I was watching it last night and I'm like, whoa. Sometimes, the first thing when you see a player collapse, you think, all right, maybe it was a concussion, especially when he got up. You think, okay, he hit his head, and that's unfortunately what happens a lot more in football, unfortunately. And, first thing I thought of, a concussion. But clearly something was up when you saw medical staff running around like crazy on the field, bringing equipment to freaking start his heartbeat again. And, let's hope he pulls through again. It's not about him playing football ever again. What you want, and, from all indications, he was a really good guy, which is beside the point, but he was doing toy charities for kids, and the toy charity that he was trying to raise about $2,500 for is now over $3 million, which is awesome. And it's just like, all we want at this point, who cares if he plays football again? You want him to walk out of that hospital holding his mother's arms and being with his family. That's the most important thing. And this could happen to anybody. You can take a line drive to the chest, and the heartbeat at that right moment could put you into cardiac arrest. There's been a lot of reports about lacrosse goalies having that issue when a lacrosse ball hit them directly into the chest, and it's happened before there too as well. So let's just hope, as a fan of sports, that we never want to see anybody get hurt, especially into this magnitude. But I mean, it hurts you to the core because that can be anybody at any given moment, and that's what's scary about that. And I know there's been other players. There was in the 80s, there was a player that died. Somebody just put the name. I forgot who it was. Dennis Bird. Yes, was paralyzed. There was another guy. I think it was on Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, that actually died in cardiac arrest on the field. Again, it's a shitty moment. I mean, I don't even know how to feel in that situation. Like, I mean, I'm heartbroken by just seeing that because that's, it's a human life, and and it's nobody's fault. You're playing football, and that direct hit trauma to the chest, where your heartbeat beats at that exact moment where things can happen into this situation, which I don't know. It just sucks. And this, what, if he breaks his ankle, he tears his ACL, even a concussion, that is so not relatable, but understanding of the job that they're doing. And that's something that, like, okay, it happens, that's part of the sport. This is not part of the sport. Getting cardiac arrest on the field, no matter how it happened, is not supposed to happen. All right, this is not supposed to happen. And if it was only that rare occurrence where trauma to the chest and to the heart at the exact moment of that certain heartbeat, at the ending of a heartbeat cycle, and it could just trigger cardiac arrest, that's not part of the sport. Like, you don't think of that when you're a fan. ACLs, MCLs, broken bones. Yeah, of course. And it sucks. And you know what? Let's hope the kid's okay. Let's, the hell with him playing football again. Let's just get him back to his family and be home and live his life. That's the most important thing. So with that unfortunate somber news, let's get into the Correa watch. Again, guys, it's the first day back, quote unquote, after the observance holiday. So I don't expect much. I don't think Correa is going to get done today, even though I told Joe last night that I think it's going to get done early. This morning, I think it's going to get done. I still feel like if the talks are going to get picked up again today, which all indications are, because according to the New York Post, it says this. Hold on one second. Give me a second. Let me just pull it up. I just had it and now I lost it. God damn it. All right. Here we go. All right. Give me a second, guys. And then just so you know, guys, Eric Hinsky is the new assistant hitting coach for the Mets. So jump for joy, I guess. Let's see. All right. So according to the New York Post, talks with Carlos Correa are expected to pick up again. And the belief is there's still a good chance Correa ends up signing with the Mets despite the team's concerns over his surgically repaired ankle. And then John Morosi this morning says that he feels like a deal can get done by this week. So now we're getting people that you expect to be actually talking about this and verified and know who these people are now starting to bring up some information that is actually worth telling instead of the fighting back and forth with reporters thinking of who is right and who is wrong in this situation. But things will pick up. Holidays are over. Business as usual is in effect now. And we're about 6 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and about 7 weeks until everybody reports. And then you got a little over 7 weeks until the first game in spring training is going. So it's going to come up rather quickly. The Mets got some work to do. There's still a bullpen arm that's needed in this bullpen as well. If Correa happens, great. There's your lineup right there. But they can also actually fill up the bench a little bit more and make it even better depth, because last year was a big key to last year was the depth that they had on the bench as well. And I think that's important for the Mets to continue to do on their bench. And I think it's important also, not only with the bench, but if you do have injuries, you feel confident in the people you have on your bench that can replace that player, and you're not going to lose anything worth that's big. I mean, if you lose Alonso, you're like, uh-oh, that's a problem. But, last year we lost Escobar. Last year we lost Marte for a certain amount of time. Nimmo for a little tad bit. Jankowski, Guillorme, they were big parts of this. And Jake Plummer even came up in a moment like that. So there's a lot of people in the minors and on the bench that help this team, and depth is important. That's why little signings that might not mean much at all, actually might make a difference putting this team over the top, because it takes all 26 men on the roster and sometimes men on the 40 men to make a difference and help you win a championship. And that's where the Mets are, right? We are in championship mode. If you don't think they are, pay attention to what they've been doing the last 2 years. You don't sign 38, 39-year-olds to the top of your rotation and think this is not in win now mode. You got a 5-year window. That's what Cohen wants. We're in year 3. You got to get it together now. If that's got to bring up some youth, if that's going to put them some veterans, a mixture of both, that's something that the Mets have to do. So at the current moment, talks are supposed to pick up as of today with Correa and the Mets. Morosi and the New York Post continue to say that there's a pretty good chance that this deal can get done. Morosi on MLB Network said this morning on MLB Hot Stove, that he thinks this deal can get done within the week. Again, whenever that might be. It could be the end of the week, could be today, could be tomorrow. Who the hell knows? So this Correa watch is more for people who can't watch it live, is for also the people that will watch this later, just to update it on the situation, what's going on. So we don't know nothing about the contract, except that the last thing we heard about numbers was $315 for 12 years. If that's not going to get moved around, there's got to be enough language in the contract that protects the Mets. It has to. Because if the Mets are not protected, the Mets should walk away from the deal. As much as I want Correa, does not mean you have to handcuff the Mets. And I want the Mets to get handcuffed here. And 3 years from now, if the ankle blows up, the Mets got 9 years left on that deal and you're screwed. And that's where the Mets cannot find themselves. No matter how much money the owner has, there's a limit somewhere. And you have to be smart about it. And the Mets are being smart about it. So, yes, the process is long. And I think a lot of it has to do with Christmas and New Year's. This whole week and a half is a lot of holidays. A lot of people are off. A lot of people who are involved in this type of contract talks, and that has to verify the language in the deal. It's a lot of lawyers from many sides of the spectrum. Mets, Correa's side, MLBPA, MLB. Everybody's got to look at this. And also that you need approval from the MLBPA and MLB offices that has been mostly closed for this last week. So you have to understand where all this is becoming a problem. And that's why it's probably, I guarantee if there wasn't a holiday week or week and a half, this deal would have either been dead or would have been signed already. I think the press conference would have happened already, but just think, this is day 13. He signed on this, he agreed to the Mets deal on December 21st at 2:30 in the morning. So 4 days until Christmas, and any Friday in any level that you work, especially in offices, there's usually on a Friday, you usually leave early, and you usually leave before business hours are over, earlier than that. So that Friday, the 23rd, going into the weekend of Christmas, you have nothing going on from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, because you observe the holiday from Sunday. On Monday, with most legitimate companies that are big organizations, that's usually what happens here. And this is exactly what went on. And then you had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which was still in a holiday week, which most lawyers and most other people of prominence don't work. And that's why there really hasn't been nothing going on. And we've been hearing stories that have been regurgitated by other reporters, just rewording somebody else's words just for a story. But there hasn't been much. All we've heard was that they're trying to change language. We heard a little bit about Correa doesn't want to budge on that term of the deal of 12 years, $315 million, but we really don't know. But we do know if the Mets didn't want to care about the language, this deal would have been signed already. So clearly the language of this deal is getting changed. The terms of it, who knows? But we're going to start hearing stories. We're going to start reports, rumors about this. Some details coming out, because they are keeping it close to the vest. And that goes on the Boris angle and the Mets angle as well. So I talked about this last night on Mets Hot Stove. When it comes to Boris and his clients, he's relentless. If he knows it's going to benefit his client, he would leak whatever he needs to leak out to benefit his client to a reporter. And the lack of the leaks coming out from the Boras end from a reporter tells me that Boras is satisfied with the negotiations that have been going on, and the language that might be in the deal or the terms or whatever it might be. Boras is comfortable enough of continuing his process of the negotiation, and it seems to be going well for his, because as soon as it doesn't go well for his client, he will make hell rain over. He will do it, right? As quick as he left the Giants to run and text Cohen with the Mets, he can do that with another team right away. And that's the most important thing to understand as well. So if Boras wanted something out there to benefit his client and doesn't feel comfortable with the negotiations going on with the Mets over the last, 12 days, clearly it's going good enough where Boras doesn't have to do this. And I think Steve Cohen let it known to Boras as well. They have a good working relationship. It's clear, right? You don't text an owner in the middle of the night and while he's on vacation and text him and text him about Correa if you don't have a good working relationship. So clearly they got a good working relationship. And I guarantee you, Steve Cohen, who doesn't like leaks in his front office, and I can guarantee you does not like leaks coming from people he's dealing with when it comes to the business end of contracts, he's not dealing with that. And I guarantee you, he told Boras, he goes, if you want this deal to be done, because it's going to be very unlikely that he gets a deal similar to this if he goes to another team, because he failed 2 physicals. He'll probably fail a third. So that means another team's going to be warranted to say, listen, we're not giving you more than 4 years. Well, Correa is going to lose out on a 10-year to 12-year deal of $300+ million to go to a 4-year deal worth $150 million. That's something. And then if the worry's all about his ankle, in 4 years when that contract's up, if his ankle's used goods at the moment, well, he's not making that money back. So I think for a fact, Cohen was like, listen, Boras, do not leak stuff out, any information that's going on. And plus, there is rules behind this with the CBA. There are rules. There are HIPAA rules. You cannot release medical information that the player and the MLBPA approve of. That's why when you always hear of injuries, this doesn't happen in 2 minutes, right? You hear of the injury because they got to make sure that the player agrees to it and also the MLBPA agrees to it as well. So there's HIPAA laws as well that comes to effect. And I am doing well, Jose. Thank you for tuning in. So, Danny, where do I put Correa in the lineup? I think the best spot for him is 5th. You're not getting Correa and putting him 2nd. I don't want to mess with the Mets lineup 1 through 4. Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso. You don't want to mess with that. That was lethal. The problem with the Mets last year wasn't getting on base, and it wasn't driving runs from your best 2 players in Lindor and Alonso. It was from 5 to 9. That was the issue. And if you put Correa, and if you look at 2019, I want everybody to look and Google Correa's stats in 2019. This is when he had the most RBIs in his career of 92. The reason why he had so many RBIs that year was because the Houston Astros finally used him in the middle of the lineup. And that's where he succeeded most, because he is a clutch performer. He is a run producer. Again, you're not getting a lot of RBIs when you're batting leadoff or number 2, and that's for the majority of his career where Correa was. But the 1 year the Houston Astros put him in the middle of the lineup is the difference of him having 65 RBIs to 90 RBIs. And I think the same thing. You're not going to have a problem with getting people on base in this lineup. We've gotten base a ton last year. The problem is we couldn't score. We couldn't get that run producer to get those runs in after Lindor and Alonso. And what this does with Correa is that your 1 through 4 is set. Muted. Why would Marte bat in 2nd? He was your best hitter basically all year, all around. Every time he needed a big hit, he came through. He's fine, number 2. Stop messing with the 1 through 4 when that wasn't an issue. The issue was 5 through 9. And I think if you put Correa 5th, McNeil 6th, and you can put whatever else you want to do, if you want to have the DH in Escobar 7th, if you want Canna 8th, or whoever you putting in left field 8th, and then you have Navarez 9th. And that puts everybody a step back in the lineup. And it just makes your lineup stronger, and it lengthens out your lineup. And that's the important thing as well. Now that you just don't have Lindor and Alonso to count on, now you have 3 guys in the middle of that lineup that can be your run producers. Look at 2019 with Correa during the season and where he batted. He batted a lot of 5th. He batted a little bit of 6th. And that's where he mostly was for the majority of that year. And then in the World Series, let's go back to 2019, where he had a really good postseason. He was batting 6th in that lineup. And that was a big reason why he had a really good year. And the RBIs were there. Again, I think if you could put many people, if you put Marte in the 5th spot, he would have more than 70-something RBIs. He'd be having in the 90s. Because as good as he was still batting 290. You put that in an area of the lineup where you have runners on, you're going to have more RBIs. It's just mathematical facts. It's not that hard to figure out. You know, that's why your leadoff hitter and number 2 hitter usually are probably one of your best situational good hitters are in the run producing department is not there RBI wise. And that's where I think Correa is going to thrive in his team. What did the Mets not do in the postseason? In the 3-game series against the Padres, they could not score. They got people on base. They could not score. And you put all the pressure on Lindor and Alonso when every other team has 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys that are run producers. The Mets lineup doesn't have an issue with getting people on base. It's the bringing in those guys that are on base. That was the problem. The first half wasn't a problem when it came to run producing. That was okay. But when you got down to the players that you actually need to help you 5 through 9, it wasn't there. Besides McNeil, and even McNeil is not a big RBI run producer. You know, McNeil, unfortunately, is supposed to be at the top of this lineup. The problem is you're not moving any of them for McNeil. You're just not. You're not moving Nimmo. You're not moving Marte, Lindor, or Alonso. So McNeil is just stuck in that 6th role, possibly 7th. If you know, I wouldn't mind McNeil batting 9th. Put him as a second leadoff hitter. I think that would be a good spot for him too. But what you don't want is a 320 hitter in the bottom of your lineup with nobody on base. And who knows if that's the case when it comes to the 7th or 8th spot in the lineup, or possibly the 6th. But when you have Canner as either 7th or 8th hitter in this lineup, it's a hell of a lot better than having Canner, who hit a lot in the 5th spot and 6th spot of the order when Escobar was struggling throughout the whole year. Leave? No, I am not. But I heard of the card show, but I'm not going, unfortunately. Robert, yeah, I know you need a third baseman, don't you? That would be nice. But you know, I don't know if the Mets are gonna get. Yeah, see, I don't like that at all. I don't like Correa batting second. I don't. I don't see why you're gonna move something that was so good last year. 1 through 4 wasn't the problem. It was 5 through 9. And look what you're doing there with Marte, right? You put in Marte 6th, right? So his speed is pointless now. His speed is pointless now at that point. And that doesn't make sense. And don't get me wrong, I like Correa as a 2-hitter, but Marte showed when he was healthy in that number 2 spot, he was lethal. 100% lethal. Again, would I be mad about that lineup? No. But Buck did not waver from that lineup, from the top 4 almost at all, unless there was an injury. And I don't think he's going to mess with it. I think 1 through 4 wasn't the problem. 5 through 9 was. You need run producers. You need the run producers. And Correa in the number 2 spot is not solving the major issue the Mets had. So what if he's good at the 2-hole? Marte was. So what is a person like Correa going to change that Marte didn't do? Correa isn't a base stealer. Correa isn't as fast as Marte. So you're losing that out of that 2-hole. I like Marte at number 2. I'm pretty sure Correa can have a lot more moments. Because, again, Marte's not a home run hitter either. At least Correa in his year can hit the 20 to 25. Marte is around the 16 to 19 to 20 guy. But I don't want Marte hitting home runs. I want Marte on base. Because when he's on first, I want the guys behind him to drive him in. And that's why I like Correa at the 5th spot. Joe, I think you put Marte twice, but yeah, I see what you're saying. So McNeil would be 6th, Canna Beatty would be 7th. The DH would be 7th, which would be whoever, pick your guy. 8th or 9th would be the Canna or Beatty, and then 9th would be your catcher. And I think that's fine. Cohen didn't say, "Oh, this was the bat we need to put Correa second." It's just that's not the case. Now, he's did it most of in his career, but the most productive he was in his career with Correa was when he was in the middle of the lineup with runners on base. Correa is not changing anything with the Mets if he's batting second, because you're going to go back to the same issue. The skills that you love of Marte, which is the situational hitter, puts the bat on the ball, uses his speed to his advantage, is basically pointless in the 6th spot. That's a guy you want at the top of the lineup. Correa is that run-producing guy that you could put 5th behind Pete Alonso. I have more faith in Correa being that protection for Alonso than Marte is. Marte's skill set is for the top of the lineup. And that's why I like him there. Let's see. So again, guys, I don't think we're going to get a lot of news early on. If we do get more news, it's probably going to be later in the day. Sorry. Just checking something. All right. So, this is going to be like an hour stream. This is only for the people who can't watch the stream early on, so they can watch it as like a video later. So I don't want them to spend 3 hours on the stream and on a video later on, because what we're talking about here is what do the Mets do if they get Correa lineup-wise? If they don't get Correa, what are they going to do? Well, Robert, the Phillies lineup is lethal, but you know what they have a lot of? More strikeouts. Even though Turner's really good, and he's going to help them produce a little bit more runs because he gets on base, he strikes out a ton as well. The Phillies are a big strikeout team along with the Braves. And the Phillies rotation is not as good as everybody thinks. People keep on saying that. Walker was good as a New York Met because he was in a big ballpark. You're putting him in a bandbox. Even when he pitched well, he gave up home runs. He's going to give up a lot more home runs in Philly. And Nola, I don't care what anybody says. I've been saying this for years. Nola was the prime jewel pitching prospect for the Phillies. As soon as Wheeler came on board, Willie was like, hold my back. Nola isn't an ace. Nola isn't even a number 2. If he was on any real good rotation, he would be a number 3. And Walker with his 3.2 ERA is going to balloon to a 3.5, 3.6 easily in that ballpark. Yeah, but again, muted. You're not getting Correa to bat him second. How many more guys do you want on base percentage? That's the whole point. This whole lineup is filled with on-base guys, but not run producers. You put them in the 2-hole, you're not solving the main issue, which was getting the runs in. That's what is not happening if you put Correa in number 2. It makes no sense. If that's the case, you might as well just not get anybody and bring back the same lineup, because you're not helping the main reason, the main cause of the problem with this lineup. The on-base percentage wasn't the problem with this lineup. We got on base a ton. We couldn't drive him in. Marte is good, but he isn't his skill set is for the top of the lineup. His speed, his situational hitting, his ground balls that he can beat out on the field. Correa can't do that. He doesn't have that elite speed like Marte does. You're going to mess with the four batters in the lineup. Yeah, but muted, he's not going to be as good as Correa. I'm sorry, he's not. He's not. Marte isn't a home run guy. He isn't a guy that's looking for home runs. I like a clutch player in Correa batting behind Pete Alonso. And believe me, Steve Cohen is not going to say, oh, that was the bat we need in Correa and put him number 2. It doesn't make sense. And what you're doing is not basically fixing what the lineup needs. And I do think Buck likes Marte in that number 2 hole. Tilly, he might, but I don't think that's a good idea because as much as you're going to rely on Marte's skills, you're wasting those skills, especially with the new pitch count, the new rules where you can't throw over more than 3 times, and the bigger bases is only going to pick up Marte's game in the top of the lineup. Oh yeah, Jake, absolutely. That's what they're trying to do with the contract right now. Again, the talks are picking up again. We're gonna just wait and see. Again, I want this to be done with. To be honest with you, like I would give an ultimatum to Correa and say, listen, we don't get this deal done by the end of the week. Sorry, but we have to move on. And I think that's only the smart thing to do because you don't want to lose Correa and the deal doesn't happen and everybody that you were trying to get is off the board now, and then you bring back the same lineup, and then we're in real trouble. Especially with the Phillies and the Braves, and you don't really get your lineup better, which was the biggest key last year, was a real problem. Well, Ron, that's the problem, right? What's left is Mancini and Duvall. And again, and Danny, that's a good point. So you're going to put Correa at number 2. If you're so worried about his ankle, in that 2 spot, you're going to need a guy to steal bases, go first to third. Do you want Correa doing all that in the top of the order with an ankle injury that everybody's concerned about? Because I sure as hell don't. But no, you're not, Tilly, because you're looking for him to be a run producer. You're not looking for Correa to be an on-base guy, right? The whole point of Vogelback was to get him to hit home runs. Yet, the big thing that the Mets talked about and Epler talked about was his on-base percentage, which we don't need. Muted, I agree. But let's not act like the lineup was the only reason why this team won 101 games. You had the best closer in baseball. You had a starting rotation, no matter if it was injured or not, figuring out to win ball games almost all the time. And I don't think trades are going to exist in this situation because the only 2 guys that are on the same level, if not better, than Correa is Devers and Ohtani, and that's not happening. These trades are not happening before the season. Trade deadline, different story. But right now, it's not happening. And too many people are talking about that like it's a big possibility, and I don't think it is. Because if Epler and Cohen hasn't shown you anything, they are not trading 3-4 of their top 10 prospects for anybody because they didn't want to do that to make them better last year at the trade deadline. And everything they did this year was to avoid giving draft picks for qualifying offers. Every player they signed didn't have a qualifying offer attached to them. So they're clearly using all their tricks and money to avoid trading their prospects. Robert, I think the Dodgers are going to get Devers. I said that numerous times already. Morning, Beer. What's up, buddy? Happy New Year. Well, yeah, Joe, that's the whole idea. Like, the Mets did not go after anybody that had a qualifying offer. Now, if they had a pivot to that situation, if it was like, all right, we need this guy and the hell with it, yeah. But the Mets actually gained draft picks from giving qualifying offer to their players that went somewhere else. So, again, everybody the Mets signed doesn't have a qualifying offer attached. And that's important to realize when you've heard your owner and the GM talk about the farm system. And I have a pretty good feeling that the Mets aren't going to trade for Devers and Ohtani during this year because all it takes is money at the end of the season to get whoever you want. It's your boy, bullpen arms. I would want to either go after Chafin, for sure. If some people talked about Michael Fulmer, I wouldn't mind that. But Chafin, I think, would be a nice piece to this bullpen and would just make it even better. But the big boy is Liam Hendricks. I don't know if that can happen, but it would be interesting because I think this Correa deal kind of put everything to a stop for whatever the Mets were trying to do with the bullpen, because you saw what they were trying to do. Before this Correa thing happened, the Mets were signing Robinson. They re-signed Ottavino. They traded for Raley. They already signed Diaz early in the offseason. They in the last week or so, when this Correa deal was not really known yet, when it came down to, we thought the Giants were going to get Correa. It was just that simple. The Mets were starting to get the bullpen arms together. And since this Correa thing happened, it seemed everything just went to a stop. Danny, I would include Escobar and Hendricks, but it depends on what they want. Like, there were some talks that they liked Mauricio. Would you do Mauricio straight up for Hendricks? I guess, to make your bullpen elite and you don't have to rely so heavily on your rotation, I think about it. But there's some people, especially Met fans, that are like obsessed with Ronnie Mauricio because he won the MVP in the Dominican Winter League. And now everybody's like, oh, he's going to be great. He's going to be great. Look at the Dominican Winter League's MVPs in the past and let me know how good they were in Major League Baseball, right? That doesn't concern me. The point is, every move that the Mets made blocked Mauricio out of position, right? They traded for Lindor. That just blocked Mauricio at shortstop. All right, what about second base? You can always move McNeil to the outfield. All right, but what the Mets didn't do, which they should have done, was move him to third base or second base. But wait, you had Vientos and Beatty. Oh, I guess he's blocked there now. Move him to second base. Yeah, but McNeil's a mainstay in second base. Let's not mess with that. Okay, so Mauricio's not playing second base now. All right, what about the outfield? Well, Nimmo's there for 8 years now, so he ain't going anywhere in center field. Left field, if Correa's here, well, third base is occupied for the next 8 to 12 years. So Beatty's going to probably be a left fielder because he played in the minor leagues. So now Mauricio can't play left field, can't play center field. So now you're going to throw Mauricio in right field. And if he fails at that, now his value goes down from other teams based on trades. You got to pay attention to what the Mets are doing here. Clearly, the Mets are using Mauricio in a package with something if they need it to happen. And I think that's why, if this Correa didn't work out, would they look at Devers and Ohtani? Maybe. Well, muted, I agree with that. But it's not like the Mets didn't have opportunities to move him once they got Lindor. They could have moved him to the outfield 2 years ago once they got Lindor. Beatty and Vientos, all right, third base was an option, but you could have moved him to second base. And you always have the option of moving McNeil to the outfield. That was an option. If Mauricio is so good, put him at second base, and if he plays well, you bring him up. Right? It's never bad to have guys in the farm system blowing up minor league baseball, and you bring him up. See what he can do. But the problem is, like you said, the value, they don't want to move him from shortstop because of his value. And I think Mauricio is the biggest trade chip for the Mets to focus around the deal for whatever big player they want to get if they need it at the trade deadline or even during the rest of this offseason. All right, hold on. Let's see what's going on. Oh, this is interesting. All right, so Carlos Correa, I think this was a tweet or an Instagram of his kid and him with a baseball glove that has a caption that says, "Going to work with daddy today," and his baby has an "I love New York" t-shirt with a hot dog and a pretzel as the "I love" part. So that's very interesting. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm going to show that right there. I don't know if you guys can see it that well, but that's the way it looks. There we go, like that. So that is very interesting as well. Well, muted. His rankings dropped is not because based on his play. It's because the Mets had a great draft in 2022 that put Jet Williams and Kevin Parada above Ronnie Mauricio. Oh yeah, and that's another thing too. There was also yeah, that's very interesting. Well, I mean that is interesting. You know that he actually posted that, and I love New York T-shirt. That's very interesting. So, but he also had Correa has a T-shirt on that has the Boris logo on it, so that's pretty interesting as well. But it's very interesting, you know. Put in the caption that says "Going to work today with Daddy," and have his son have a "I Love New York" T-shirt on, which is very interesting. Again, that's gonna light up social media for sure, 100%, 110%. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. So again, I think this is going to happen more. I think this is going to happen. I think both sides are way far down the road for everybody to break this up. Jet Williams is shortstop as well, fire blazing. So, you know, but again, I mean, the Mets have the number one catcher, number one prospect in all of baseball in Alvarez, and they drafted Kevin Parada, who is the best catching a catcher in college coming out of the draft. So you see what they're doing here. They're bolstering their farm system by having backup plans. I already said this. I think Kevin Parada is going to be a better overall player than Francisco Alvarez. I think Francisco Alvarez is going to hit for power, but I don't think the average is going to be anywhere near people where it thinks it's going to be. I don't care the average of the minor leagues. You can hit 350 in the minor leagues and be a 240 hitter in the major leagues. I don't know if he's going to hit for average, and I don't know if he's going to be good enough defensively to warrant an everyday role in the lineup only based on his bat. Because then you just might as well make him the DH going forward and the hell with catching. But the whole point of the Mets not bringing up Alvarez earlier last year was to help him in his development defensively on the in the minors for catching. And I think that's important. Hold on one second. Let's see. Joe, I don't know if you can see that, but everybody's like scoping the glove right now. It looks like, I don't know if that's it could be a Giants thing. It could be. I don't know if that's a Mets logo on it. I mean, could be not. It's interesting. But that is funny. Let's see. Yeah, I can't really tell, to be honest with you. I mean, you could be right. I mean, that the glove has a New York Met logo on it. Peter, I don't think Parada should learn first because he's already a better catcher than Alvarez probably will ever be. And I think Kevin Parada can hit for average. He'll probably hit you. You know, he's projected to hit around 20 home runs. You know, you don't need a power bat or a offensive juggernaut as a catcher. You need somebody who gives quality at bats, can hit for average, and hit you home runs every now and then. Alvarez is an anomaly. You know, one, you got to keep him healthy. Two, he's not a great defensive catcher, and nobody knows if he'll ever be. And as a number one ranked prospect in all of baseball, he should be a lot further along as a catcher, and he's not. That's what worries me. Well, Danny, the problem with Alvarez, he's too short to play first base. He's too damn big to play any other position. He's a catcher. Unless they're just going to say, listen, we love you, bat the hell with catching. Be a DH. But I don't know if the Mets are going to do that. Because I think Parada is going to be a better overall player. Jet Williams, who knows? You know, he was pretty good in college. He got all the intangibles, 5'2" player. I don't know. So we'll see. Yeah, and quick, that was the one thing I checked out too. I played third base. That's a third base glove, and I know it's only half the glove, but I played enough third base, and I had enough third base gloves to know that that's a little bit of a bigger glove than a shortstop's glove. Shortstop gloves got to get the ball out quick. Third base gloves a little bit bigger. Yeah, it does look like that. So, yeah, I caught that right away. Yeah, and the kid's shirt. I mean, I love New York is kind of like, come on, like that. That's clearly obvious. Sorry, guys, give me a second. All right, all right. So again, social media is gonna go crazy now. He posted something early in the morning. And talks were supposed to pick up today. Maybe it is happening. Who knows? Maybe they knew this was happening a week ago, and just because of the holidays, nothing has moved forward with the official signing. Who knows? But we'll see. Let's see. All right, so going back to the Damar Hamlin thing, his family put up a quote, a little quote from the family of Damar Hamlin. On behalf of our family, we want to express our sincere gratitude for the love and support shown to Damar during his challenging time. We are deeply moved by the prayers, kind words, and donations from fans around the country. We also want to acknowledge the dedicated first responders and healthcare professionals at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center who have provided exceptional care to Damar. We feel so blessed to be a part of the Buffalo Bills organization and to have their support. We also want to thank Coach Taylor and the Bengals for everything they've done. Your generosity and compassion mean the world to us. Please keep Damar in your prayers. We will release updates as soon as we have them. So, not really good or bad news. The good news is he's still fighting, which is good news to see. Well, Mr. 16, I don't care how good a team is. You can get to the World Series, you can get knocked out in the first round. Every team has the ability to lose in the first round and go all the way to the World Series. The problem is the fact that Major League Baseball in the playoffs now is not just about being the best team anymore. You have to get hot at the right time. You don't have to be the best team on paper to get as far as like the Phillies did. They weren't the best team by far, but you know what they were? They got clutch and they got hot at the right time, and it changed everything for them. All of a sudden their bullpen actually got a little bit better. And that was a big reason why they won too. But also their lineup started to pick up offensively. Everybody started just to get hot at the right time. And you can take that all the way to the World Series, but they got stopped by the Astros. So we can bitch, moan, and complaining back and forth to each other. Dodger fan, Braves fans, Philly fans, whoever fans. It doesn't matter if you win 107 games or 87 games. The point is, if you get hot at the right time, there's a pretty good chance that you can go all the way to the World Series and win. It doesn't determine anymore. You being the best team is like a crystal ball saying you're going to make the World Series. The only reason why the Yankees and the Astros were the two best teams in the American League was because the American League was garbage. And if they didn't make it, it would have been an embarrassment for those two teams. The National League, a whole nother story. The majority of the free agents, the big free agents signed, was in the National League. So the National League even gets more potent. And it's not going to be easy for any team in the National League to get through the gauntlet of the National League playoffs at all. I don't care if you're the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, or the Cardinals, or whoever else might be in the Central. It won't be easy. But you can do things to make it better. So, let's see. What else? So Joe sent me what was Correa wearing glove wise. With the glove was a totally different color. I mean, whatever that means. These guys got a ton of money and got deals with glove companies. So Well, Robert, we'll see. Again, it's a heavy prediction for a team that won in a pandemic year, right? And let's be honest, if you're going to let your prospects play, that doesn't mean they're going to be good either. So, they're relying on them. And, listen, for all the money that they spent and it only got them one pandemic world championship, you might as well go with the young guys and save a little bit of money in the process. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because there is no method to winning World Series. You can't say, oh, if you go with all your young guys, all your top prospects, that's how you win. Well, then you see a team like the Astros, who are mostly veterans and a couple of young guys here and there that won the World Series. Or you do what the Phillies did and buy everybody possible and get hot at the right time, right? There's no stamp of approval. This is how you get to the World Series. It's just irrelevant at this point now, when the Major League Baseball playoffs is a lot like the NHL playoffs now. If you remember the St. Louis Blues, they were similar to what the Nationals did and what the Phillies did and even the Braves did over the last 4 years, right? They actually struggled in the first half. They were bad in the first half. And you go to the second half, and the St. Louis Blues, who was one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, got hot in the middle of the season, got that 8th seed, and took their hot power team right into the Stanley Cup and won the Stanley Cup. And the Phillies didn't get into the World Series. They didn't win, but nobody predicted they would get there. The Nationals, nobody thought they would even make the playoffs. And the same thing that goes for the Braves in 2021. They all got hot at the right time. Look the trajectory, right? Yeah, the Braves were trending upwards from June 1st. But look of this year. Look what happened, right? They basically got worn out at that point. Well, Justin, it's not comparing sports, because the Major League Baseball playoffs, because it got expanded, gives for a lot more upsets in baseball. And if you look at the NBA, that has the same amount of teams as the NHL that make the playoffs. Now with the playing games are stupid with the NBA, but most of the time it's 8 teams from each conference, right? The number 8 seed has no chance in the NBA. It's usually the top 3 teams on each conference that has the difference, that will probably win the championship. In the NHL, it's rare. Look at the Presidents win. What was it? The team with the most amount of points. They got knocked out in the first round last year. Look at the Panthers. They have the most points almost every year, and they can't even make the conference finals. So it is very much like the NHL playoffs now, because of the fact that you see teams like the Nationals, the Braves, the Phillies, teams that even if they won their division, were never favorites, not even close to being favorites to making the World Series, or especially winning it. And it's been like that for a while, where because ever since we saw the expansion of the wild card, and then a little bit more from last year, and now with the buys, it's a whole new ball game. Justin, but again, they don't win. That's the whole point, right? The Phillies could have won the World Series, right? Name me the 8th seed that made it to a conference finals. Now, every now and then, yeah, could they make it to a conference championship? Yeah. But they don't win. You know what? The Nationals shouldn't won a World Series in 2019. The Phillies should have never made the World Series. The Braves should have never made the World Series. But guess what? What about the Rays, the team who faced the Dodgers in 2020? How did they make the World Series? What was that, in 2000? I mean, okay, so you're going back 22 years ago, when basketball was totally different 20 years ago. Totally different 20 years ago. But now, you're lucky if the top 3 teams from each conference are the best 6 teams in the league, and that's the teams that are going to win. If it's not the Golden State Warriors, it's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. If it's not the Nets this year, it's going to be the Celtics. The Cavs aren't going anywhere, right? Even though they're very good, right? The Knicks might make the playoffs. They're probably not definitely going anywhere. And it's a revolving door of bullshit of the NBA. But what this new format has done, not just division winners, it gives teams the opportunity to get out at the right time in the playoffs. And that's what happens, right? Nobody predicted the Phillies to go into the World Series. Some people predicted them to get bounced by the Cardinals in the wild card round. And then people thought there was no chance that they were going to lose to the Braves. They were going to beat the Braves. And, the Padres were a little bit different because they were kind of on a even playing field for the most part because they were second and third of the wild card teams. Good morning. So now the way baseball is set up now, format-wise for the playoffs, with the buys, with the extra teams, I feel like the buys hurt some teams. And it clearly hurt some teams. But you can also look back and say, well, the Phillies are facing the Braves. The Phillies were very good against the Braves in 2022. They really challenged them during the season. And the Braves had trouble with the Phillies. But the Mets didn't. So how can you say, well, how does that make any sense? Shouldn't the Mets be better than the Phillies? So the Mets should have easily went a little further. The Phillies beat the Padres, but the Mets were better than the Phillies. So it's not relatable when it comes to certain aspects of sports where you look at, all right, the 8th seed or the 7th seed in what is it, 7th seed, 7th, 4th? Yeah, 7th in baseball or is it 6? What the hell am I talking? It's six teams. The worst team in the NL that makes the playoffs and the worst team in the American League have a shot. I can guarantee you at the end of the NBA season and two teams in the championship are probably going to be teams that were at the top of the conferences all year. At least top 3. I can assure you the 6th, 7th, and 8th seed ain't going to be nowhere to be found because they're not good enough. And it's because that's the way NBA loves it. They love for these super teams to be up at the top and everybody else go to hell. And it's funny because we talk about parity in sports, yet Major League Baseball is trying to get the problems that were consistent every year in Major League Baseball, where the top 3 or 4 teams were the teams that were in the NLCS and the ALCS and making the World Series. It's different now. 3 out of the last 5 World Series had National League East teams in it, and 2 of them won it. So I think it's more of a crapshoot than it ever has been. Ever has been. And I think all you got to do is make the playoffs. Do you want to win a division? Absolutely. But it's not the end of the world. And I think the problem with the Mets last year was the fact that I think their whole mindset was, we're going to win the division and we're going to get into the playoffs, but we're going to be division winners. Once the Braves punched them in the mouth and they lost the division, they never recovered. And they basically felt sorry for themselves for being a wild card team. And there was no hope in that Padres series. You felt the energy of that team. It was like dead energy. And that's not the way it is anymore in Major League Baseball. I think if you make the playoffs, you have a chance to win in baseball now. And just the way the format is set up. And now the teams on the bye have to rev back up when the team they're facing just won a wild card series. And if they're hot going into that series and you're cold because you haven't played in a week or 4 days, well, guess what? You might be behind the 8 ball before you even get started. And that's what happened to the Braves. And that's what happened to many teams. That's what happened to the Dodgers. And I think that's where this whole thing in Major League Baseball now is focused on getting hot at the right time and being prepared and being ready for the playoffs than rather, the team like the Mets and the Dodgers, for example, right? The Dodgers knew they were going to win that division probably 2 months before the season ended, right? The Mets were trending in that direction. And they still felt like even at almost the middle of the end of the year that they were still going to win the division. But once that got taken away from them, all hell broke loose. And the Mets weren't the same team they were for the majority of the year. And then, what was the excuse for the Dodgers, right? The best team in baseball. What happened to them? Can't really predict that stuff. All right, so let's go back to the Correa news. So we heard that the talks are going to pick up big time for Correa and the Mets. We also heard that John Morosi on MLB Network earlier today that he believes this deal is going to get done this week with Correa and the Mets. And then if you follow Correa on social media, he posted a picture of him and his son with a caption that says, "Going to work with daddy today." His son has a "I Love New York" t-shirt. Correa has a Boris t-shirt, and he also has his glove in his hand. And if you zoom in, some people believe that it is a New York Mets logo, which I still can't see. It's kind of hard to see, but some people think it might be. Justin, I agree, buddy. I agree. Like, sign him or move on. That's it. So, again, there's clearly something going on in the Correa situation with the Mets that either they're talking, the deal's going to get signed, everything's been approved. Because, again, before New Year's, there was indications that the Mets sent over the language that involved protection for the Mets in regards to Correa's ankle injury. And obviously, during the holidays, MLB, PA, and MLB offices are closed. So today could be the day that they might have got approval and they're just waiting for Correa to get to Citi Field. Who knows? We don't know. There ain't really a background there. That looks like a home. So who knows where he might be? I don't know, but we'll see. All right. So that's where we are right now. And I do think it is going to happen. Again, this is only going to be a little over an hour stream because I don't think anything's happened. And again, we gotta keep on that trend, especially with these streams. There was many signings after I got off of my stream. And I ain't gonna prolong it. If I gotta end this stream and the thing happens, so be it. I'll be happy. So, for another 5-10 minutes or so, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been talking about what type of language can be in the contract. Could it be there was a deal in a language in the contract with Pudge Rodriguez about his spine, that if he had an injury with the spine, that the team could actually opt out of that deal, either rework the deal or have the option to renegotiate a deal, and also give the player option as well. If the player has an opt-out and he's playing well, he has the opportunity to opt out. Could it be that? Could it be more about insurance purposes, where if Correa does hurt that ankle and it affects it and he misses a certain amount of games, how much does the insurance kick in of paying Correa's salary? Because sometimes, I think we talked about this with David Wright many, many, many years ago with his back, that I think it was like 75%. The insurance was paying the salary of David Wright, and only 25% was from the Mets. Well, Justin, I mean, it's not excuses. It's just common sense, buddy. Like, the whole holiday week, a lot of people, especially at big organizations and big companies, don't work. And the people that you need to sign off on this and to look over this are lawyers, prominent people within the MLB offices and the MLB PA offices that are not there. They're not going to stop their Christmas celebration and their New Year celebration or whatever holiday you celebrate to read over a contract just because we want it to happen. It doesn't work like that. These are people's jobs, just as much as we have jobs and we get days off when we don't want to be bothered from our job. It's the same concept. Just because we want it to happen and we're frustrated by it doesn't mean that they should just be working 24/7. Now, today is basically the start of a new year with all the holidays, big holidays in the rearview mirror. That's why some people are indicating that this is the week it's gonna happen, because everybody's back to work, everything's open, everybody that needs to be in place to read the contract, read the language, lawyers, doctors, whatever it might be, teams, lawyers, everything are now ready to go. And that's why everybody believes it's picking up. And we'll see. Again, it could just be, nonsense, but it seems like, because remember, the deal was agreed upon on December 21st, a couple of days before Christmas. If you worked in an office, if you work for a state, local, city government, Friday before a holiday, when the holiday's on a weekend, Friday, everybody is out the door way before business hours of 5 o'clock. By 2, 3 o'clock, everybody's gone. So you got that. There's people that don't work from Tuesday to Thursday because Monday is observance of the holiday. Friday is right before the holiday. And when you got Christmas and New Year's back to back in the same week and a half, nobody's working. Nobody's going above and beyond to satisfy our frustration with the whole process. It doesn't work like that. We work. Everybody works. Just because their job is higher ranking than some of our jobs doesn't mean that they have to be working 24/7. And you find me a lawyer between Christmas and New Year's of that week. Find me a lawyer that you can get in touch with, because you can't. And there's tons of lawyers on every side, the Correa side, the Mets side, the MLB side, the MLB PA side. That's just how it happens. And I did not bring up that part of the whole MLB offices and MLB PA offices were open or closed until I actually called up the MLB offices. You can call up MLB offices right now. Find the number, the MLB PA offices as well. There's a secretary that picks up on a regular, normal working day from 9 to 5. They'll answer the phone. And it was a fact, because Tuesday and Thursday, it was nearly impossible to get anybody on the phone between the week of Christmas and New Year's. Just to see if anybody picked up. On the Monday, observance of Christmas or the holiday, nobody picked up, but went straight to message. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, took a couple of tries, but somebody was there. But just because the secretary was there, who is low on the totem pole, usually the lower people on the totem pole just keeps the engine moving. But the big people are not there. This happens in lawyer offices as well, where sometimes the secretary might be taking some calls during the middle of the week between Christmas and New Year's, but the actual lawyer is not there to do any of his business or talk to any of the clients. It's the same concept here. A contract is a contract. Doesn't matter if it's a contract you're signing with a company that you might work for or a baseball team or a sports team. Lawyers, doctors, everything needs to be aligned. Everybody's got to get their approvals. And the last approval you're going to get is from MLB and MLB PA offices. They are the last ones that sign off on any deal, trade, or otherwise, and including free agents. So nothing gets done until those offices actually have people that are there that actually approve of these things. And don't think for a second, once that contract is sent to the offices of Major League Baseball and MLB PA, their lawyers are going to look at it too. And once they approve of it, and you got the player and the team approve of it, that's when the deal is official. So everything has to align. Just because me and you want it to happen, and Tom, Dick, and Harry that are big, prominent people that are lawyers that in this situation that have to approve it or look through it, these people ain't working. As much as we probably would love them to stop our frustration and keep on refreshing Twitter every 5 seconds, it's not realistic. Because as much as we might not think, just because they might get paid well and they're at big prominent positions doesn't mean they're not going to enjoy their times on the holidays either. No, Stan, he didn't pass his physical. You got to remember, when there's a concern on the physical, that means he failed it. That doesn't mean the teams can't still sign you. It gives the team caution. right? I can assure you there's teams that gave physicals to players that they really wanted, and they know about the injury or the physical injury, and he could have failed it. But that doesn't stop any team from still signing that player. Justin, no, it's not, buddy. Come on. These people have lives. And they don't have a year round. It's not how it happens, especially during the biggest holidays of the year. I don't care what lawyer you are, okay? I don't care if you're paid by the team or paid by MLB. And even if the lawyers wanted to do their work, who are they going to speak to in the Major League Baseball offices? The ghost of Babe Ruth? No, come on, Justin. You're not paying attention to the whole issue. Doctors and lawyers ain't working. Did you find a doctor or a lawyer during this whole week and a half of holidays? Hell no. You're not. Everything's closed. And if they're open, they're very limited of being open. Billy, you got to stop, Billy. Yeah, they're handsomely, but nobody works 365 days a year, buddy. Sorry. You might want to believe that because you're frustrated. I get it. I want this shit to end too. But there is no lawyer, there is no doctor that is going to be worrying about his damn job during a holiday week. Most of them travel outside the state of wherever they are. And even if you're right, and team doctors and lawyers are paid very well, and they already negotiated this contract, everything from the player side and the team side is official, and they're agreed upon it. Well, who are they sending it to the MLB offices and the MLBPA, who also have lawyers? And these lawyers work in those offices. If you're paying them 365 days a year, they're lawyers specifically for those offices. If the office is closed, prominent people aren't coming in. So that debunks your story. Because for all we know, maybe the Mets doctors and lawyers and Correa's doctors and lawyers all worked it out during the holidays. But where were they sending the contract? To me and Justin to approve it? No. No. Yeah, Bama and Billy Boy, make sure that you give Tank all the credit in the world when Correa signs with the Mets. Yeah, he did fail a physical, but that still doesn't stop a team from signing that player. Remember, a failed physical is a recommendation from the doctors saying, listen, we don't think this ankle is going to hold up. Now it's at the discretion of the team. That's why this deal is taking long. If he failed the physical, then the Mets should be out of here. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But that still doesn't answer the question of why wasn't his deal done? Because even if it is approved, then the MLB offices and the MLBPA ain't got nobody there that actually is worth approving. It's not about putting Justin in his place. We're having a back and forth conversation. This is not a lethal conversation. It's opinions that we have, and that's things that we have. If his wife's a doctor, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that every major league team works the same way. That doesn't mean that every GM, every doctor, every lawyer is here every step of the way. And prominent people in unions and offices of Major League Baseball are not going to just sit there. All right, guys. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna end this stream again to give people the opportunity to look at the stream, this video later. For everybody else that wants to look it over or whatever like that, you can look on Twitter, obviously. But just to get a little feedback from everybody like that, again, Justin's feedback is warranted here. That's it. I love the feedback, because I'm not here telling you I know everything. But let's not act like there isn't some concern to the fact that offices are closed. Just because everybody gets paid handsomely doesn't mean you're going to be there every step of the way. And even if Justin's wife is the doctor of the Mets and she approves it, and the player and the agent approves it with their lawyers and doctors, the MLB and the MLBPA offices who need to approve it are not there. The people that need to be there and the lawyers who have to look it over, They're not going to walk into the office on Christmas Day and say, hey, where's the paperwork? They're not doing that. All right. As much as you want to believe that, it's not happening. So with that said, guys, let's hope that we get some clarity to this issue. And I do think the deal in agreement between the Mets and Correa is done. I just think they're just waiting for all the language in the deal from MLB and MLBPA to look it over with their lawyers just to make sure everything is in around what the CBA allows. And that's what we're waiting for. And I think that's really true. And Correa posting out on social media that picture of I Love New York shirt on his kid, you know, I don't think it's just a random picture. All right. To be honest. So, look, I worked for local city and state government as well. All right. I used to do all of this crap. There is nobody big, even if the offices are open, there is nobody that is the big guy in town, or mostly the big people in offices that are there. You get the little people that are low on the totem pole there. And we just have to wait because it's always fun. All right, but you're talking about somebody dying. I can assure you a contract situation is not going to blow up in anybody's face on Christmas Day. If he may die, well, her Hippocratic oath is more of the problem in that situation than worrying about a player's contract. Or, you know, of course, a doctor is going to be on call if you have that type of job. But you also have a Hippocratic oath to save people. You can't just say, oh, no, I'm hanging out with my family on Christmas. But that's a failed physical. It's a concern, but it doesn't mean the team has to. Remember, it's recommendations, right? He didn't break his ankle and say, oh, well, he broke his ankle. We're done. Yeah, it's concerns, but if there's a concern in the physical, you failed it. You didn't pass it, clearly. Because if he would have passed it, he would be a Giant right now, not a Met. Or at least presuming to be a Met. All right, guys. So with that said, everybody have a good rest of the day. Wherever you are, make sure you be safe. And once again, Hamlin, prayers go out to him. Hopefully he is okay. He gets out of the hospital. Who cares if he plays football? Hopefully he walks out with his mom and his family. And hopefully that heartbeat still kicks. He didn't have no brain trauma based on the lack of oxygen, because apparently it took a couple of minutes to get his heart started again, unfortunately. And sometimes the oxygen to the brain could not be there, and that's when you get brain damage. Hopefully that did not happen. Hopefully they got some oxygen in his body as quickly as possible, and hopefully that would be the best thing for him, because maybe he can come through with a full recovery and just be home with his family. The hell with football. So with that said, everybody have a good day. Hopefully we get some breaking news with Correa, hopefully very soon, so we can stop all this nonsense and we can complain about the real issues, which is the lineup and roster construction. So with that said, everybody have a good night. Let's go Mets. See you next time, guys.
You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's